Hello lovely people, and welcome back to this week's new video. As you can tell from the title, this is my mid-year book freakout tag video. It's a little bit late. It's a week late. Actually, the middle of the year is the first week of July, but everyone does it like mid-June, which freaks me out because it's so early. But I had like other content scheduled and I had it all written down in like my planner. Last year I actually did it like the same week as I'm doing it this year, which is so strange, but I think next year I need to be more prepared in doing it earlier, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I have everything written down here. I always have my notes with me, and I have a couple books I want to talk to you guys about. I want to make sure that I'm not repeating so that I could talk about as many books as possible. The first question is the best book you've read so far this year, and I actually have two, technically three, but two that I could talk about. The Guest List by Lucy Foley and Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. I loved these. These are both like mystery thrillers. This is more of a whodunit, and this is like unsolved mystery type of situation. I really just devoured this during the stay-at-home reading rush, and I absolutely loved it. I know Meg really raves about this book, and I also do. You've definitely heard about this before if you've been around booktube, so please pick this up. It was really exciting. It all unfolds at the end. I really like that it was told in different perspectives of I think like 5 or 6 people, and this one also, it's told in 2 different sort of timelines, in the present one and her father's book. This one follows Maggie Holt, and she grew up in a haunted house, or she believes she spent 20 days in there, and her father wrote a book about living in a haunted house, and she goes back there after her father dies because it's now her property to figure out what really happened and piece together her childhood memories. The second question is the best sequel you've read so far this year, and I've read a couple, but the first one that definitely comes to mind is the Happy Ever After playlist by Abi Jimenez, and this I would top in favorite books of the year as well, but I wanted to talk about it for this question. I can't really talk about the plot of this book because it would ruin the premise of the first book. This is the companion, and it follows someone that comes up in the first book, so I'll just tell you what this one is about. This one follows Kristen, and she is the maid of honor for her best friend's wedding, and her best friend's fiance's best friend is moving here, Josh, to start anew with his life, and they don't really hit it off very well, but obviously it's sort of like a hate to love sort of situation, and it's really cute. This was my favorite book of February, I think, but I definitely liked the Happy Ever After playlist more. The third question is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. I didn't really do my research for this, so I can't really tell you plots of books I haven't read yet, but I can tell you I'm interested. This first one is The Tenant by Katrine Engberg, and I believe this was published in January. It's probably like a mystery of some sort. And then the second one is The Deep by Rivers Solomon. Yes, I'm getting to editing right away, but this is my fault. The Deep actually was published last year, so I can't really talk about that one, but I think for this I'm going to say Party of Two by Jasmine Guillory, which I forgot about. This is the 5th book in her wedding date series. This one is following Olivia, and she moves to LA to start her own law firm, and then she meets Max, who is a junior senator. When they go public in their relationship, because they have such high profile jobs, there is media scrutiny, and they dig up their pasts, and is it something that they can survive? The fourth question is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I also have 2 books for this. The first one is The Bride Bet by Tessa, which is coming out in August. I have already pre-ordered that. I love Tessa Dare. She is one of my favorite romance authors, probably in the top. I'm making my way through the Spindle Cove series right now. I think it's the 5th or 6th book in the Duchess Meets Duke series. I always forget the names. God damn it, but it's in this series. Girl Meets Duke, there we go. Spindle Cove series is okay so far. I definitely love the Girl Meets Duke series a lot more. The Wallflower Wager, the reason why I have it is because it's my favorite within the series. And then the next book comes out in September, which is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. I know that she's a romance author, but this is her take on mystery, I think, so I love that. I actually haven't read an Alyssa Cole book before. I think I tried with audiobook, and I just didn't really mesh well with the narrator's voice because the Scottish English accent was trash, so I had to put that down and wait to get it from the library physically, which obviously because of COVID is difficult, but I have pre-ordered when no one is watching. I'm really excited about it. Moving on to the biggest disappointment. I have 3, but I can only talk about 2 because one is for a secret TBR video. So the first one is Exit West by Mohsin and Hamid. I read this during Asian Readathon and I gave it 1 star. It might be due to the fact that I read it via audiobook and I just couldn't follow what the fuck was going on, okay? I couldn't mesh well with the storyline, and also I felt like the premise, the blurb of the story was very misleading, and I just had no idea what was going on. It wasn't what I expected at all, and I may have had a different experience reading it physically. Also, that with the fact that I had only heard good things about it, that didn't really bode well for me. The next book is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, and this wasn't like the worst thing ever. I gave it 3 stars, which is not a bad review at all. That's actually higher than average, and the only thing is that I think I fell into the hype for this because I really thought that this book would be like so amazing. I know that books written in verse don't really mesh well with me. I don't really enjoy it. I just read it for school a couple times, verse books, and I didn't really like it. So I listened to this via audiobook, which I really enjoyed. I think that changed my experience for this book because Elizabeth Acevedo herself is narrating it, which made it feel so much more powerful, and I really loved that experience. It was just so hyped and it didn't live up to that hype for me, but I do think Elizabeth Acevedo is a really great author, and I'm definitely interested in reading more of her books. I do have her other books on hold from the library. The next question is The Biggest Surprise. It's the Japanese book that I also read during Asian Readathon, and this is Sagano ga Baibachan by Shimada Yoshi. This is actually a memoir, and my boss sort of pushed it on me because she thought that I would always read at work, and she wanted me to read more Japanese books because I can read and write in Japanese, and she said this will be fun. You know, this is a comedian. This was about his life being raised by his grandmother. I didn't even plan on reading it at all. I've held on to this for over a year, I believe, and I decided to pick this up, and I'm so very glad that I did. I didn't expect to like it so much, and it actually ended up being one of my favorite books of May. The next question is my new favorite author, and I don't think I have one specifically because I can only make someone a favorite author if I have read 3 or more books from them. Some authors I've already talked about loving a lot, like Tessa or Riley Sager, so I've talked about them on my channel, but I think for this question I'm gonna have to go with Abi Jimenez. I can't really say that she's my favorite author because she only does have 2 books out, but I can say that I'm very excited to see what she has to put out next because these have been rated very high for me. There are other authors, oh, and I can say that for this author as well, Josie Silver, but we're talking about her later, so shh. The next question is a newest fictional crush, which I don't think I have one. I'm not like super in love with anyone. I mean, I could make honorable mentions for like Josh from Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. Josh is really cute, and so was Logan from When a Scot Ties a Knot by Tessa, but I wasn't like super in love with anyone where I'm still like thinking about them, and I just absolutely love them. Next question is newest favorite character. I had a difficult time picking someone for this, but I think I'm going with Chloe Brown from Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I read this during Romanceathon. I can say that Talia Hibbert is an author I'm definitely interested in. I could talk about as a newest favorite author. I immediately purchased Take a Hint, Dani Brown after this, and I definitely loved her writing, devoured this in a single day. I had difficulty because I didn't really want to pick her because at first I thought that she was a total bitch. She comes off that way, and I feel like I could relate to that as someone who has a really hard exterior and is hard to penetrate, sort of. Like, I am very reserved and shy, and I definitely come off that way at first, I think, and so in that way I could relate to her. The 10th question is a book that made you cry. I have 3 for these. The Happy Ever playlist, by which I have talked about and can't talk about enough, but also can't really because, you know, I can't talk about the plot. The Two Lives of Lydia Bird by Josie Silver. I absolutely loved her first book, One Day in December. I talk about it all the time, and I cried my eyes out for the first one, and I cried a little bit for this one as well, and she is definitely an author I would definitely look for. This book talks about grief. It wasn't necessarily the book, that the characters or anything like that that made me cry, just a shared experience. Reading about Lydia at the cemetery and talking to a person that she lost, Freddie, made me think about my own loss, and thinking about that and like wanting to talk to that person made me cry. So it was my own experience. This book also made me cry. He's very poor being raised here, and him and his grandma are very, very scrappy, but hearing about the personal kindnesses of his community for this young child in elementary school who just didn't know that what these people were doing for him was, you know, for him, that sort of kindness really made me cry. I need to hurry up because we don't have the AC on yet, and I'm wearing a blazer and it's fucking hot. The 11th question is a book that made you happy. I don't know if I could take this out, but I have... I'm not even gonna bother taking it out, but it's Will Always Have Summer by Jenny Han, which is the last book in her Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy. It just had a really nice wrap up. I mean, for some people I can hear them saying like, oh, it's cheesy, it was just too clean, but I just really, really loved the happy ending in this one. Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I said in Romanceathon that I didn't think that Red was very good looking in my eyes, but his personality definitely made up for that, and just I really liked reading about them, and I love the British humor in this. Absolutely devoured this. Can't recommend this enough. The 12th question is the most beautiful book that you have purchased or received, and I don't really know. I mean, I guess The Six of Crows duology, only because they're the first books that I bought that have sprayed edges like this, but I feel like I reserved the super, super beautiful covers to like limited edition ones or special edition ones that just look amazing. I like watching people's bookshelf tours and seeing that they have multiple copies of one and seeing like which editions that I want. I guess I would say that, but they're not really anything extraordinary except for the sprayed edges. And then the last question, God, I'm so sweaty, is what books do you need to read by the end of the year? I don't really need to read anything. I was watching Allie from Mrs. Dunn Reads, and her making it specifically clear that she doesn't need to read anything because reading is a hobby, which I feel. I made a video at the beginning of the year called like my 2020 TBR, and I do have books on there that I have not yet read. I started reading this book, The Goldfinch, in November, and I haven't picked it up since I sort of put it down, so I'm considering counting it as a DNF for 2019 and restarting it because it's just been so long. I do need to get to A Feast for Crows because I read Storms in Swords last year, and that was the only one that I got to, but I know that these books are going to take me a long time, so I sort of put it off for that reason. The books that were on my 2020 TBR were these ones. A couple of them are on my Reading Rush TBR, so I'm not going to talk about them. Imaginary Friend, I do plan on doing a reading vlog, and I want to get in a spooky mood for October. Maybe Spookathon. It's a big pile, but I am trying to get through them. I have knocked out a couple of them. Anyway, that's everything, and I'm a sweaty mess, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know what books you have read, what books I should be reading this year, and please give it a big thumbs up if you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!